There's an ancient practice that predates every religion, every philosophy, every self-help movement. It's so simple that children do it naturally until we teach them to stop. It's called speaking to your sleep. Not praying, not meditating, just talking. Whispering a truth into the threshold between waking and dreaming. The mystics knew it. The healers practiced it. Your grandmother might have done it without realizing, but somewhere along the way, we forgot. We started treating bedtime like an off switch instead of a doorway. Tonight, I'm going to show you what happens when you remember. When you stop collapsing into sleep and start entering it with intention. You know, I've spent decades studying the mind, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, the way thoughts become things, the way beliefs shape our reality. And of all the techniques, all the principles, all the practices I've ever taught, this simple, profound practice of speaking to your sleep, is perhaps the most overlooked and yet the most powerful, because it operates at the exact moment when your defenses are down, when your doubts are quiet, when the part of you that says, yeah but, and what if, and that won't work for me, finally steps aside. Let me tell you why you're here right now listening to these words. You're here because something in your life feels stuck. Maybe it's a problem you've been wrestling with for months, maybe years. Maybe it's a relationship that's broken, and you don't know how to fix it. Maybe it's a financial struggle that keeps you awake at night. Maybe it's just this low-level anxiety, this persistent feeling that something's not quite right, and you can't put your finger on what it is. You've tried thinking your way through it. You've tried working harder. You've tried planning, strategizing, pushing, forcing, and yet here you are, still stuck, still searching. And here's what I want you to understand right from the start. The reason you're stuck isn't because you're not smart enough. It's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's not because there's something fundamentally wrong with you. You're stuck because you've been using the wrong part of your mind to solve the problem. You've been using your conscious mind, the part that analyzes, that worries, that doubts, to do work that can only be done by your subconscious mind. The part that creates, that heals, that knows. And here's the beautiful secret that most people never discover. Your subconscious mind is most receptive, most open, most available to you in those few precious minutes before you fall asleep. That twilight zone between waking and dreaming. That threshold. That doorway. The mystics called it the hypnagogic state. Scientists have measured it with brain waves, but you don't need fancy terminology to access it. You just need to know it exists, and you need to know how to speak to it. Most people waste this window, and I don't say that to shame you. I say it because it's true, and the truth is what sets us free. Most people spend those last few minutes before sleep scrolling through their phones, watching videos that don't matter, reading news that makes them anxious, or they replay the day. Every mistake, every awkward conversation, every moment where they wish they'd said something different, done something better, or they rehearse tomorrow. All the things that could go wrong, all the fears, all the worries, and then they wonder why they wake up exhausted, why their problems feel heavier in the morning than they did the night before. But tonight, that changes. Tonight, you're going to learn what the mystics knew, what the healers practiced, what your own grandmother might have understood on some intuitive level, even if she never put words to it. You're going to learn how to speak to your sleep, how to give your subconscious clear, emotionally resonant instructions, how to plant seeds in the dark that will grow while you rest, and how to wake up transformed, not because you worked harder, but because you finally learned how to work with yourself instead of against yourself. Now, before we go deeper, I want to address something, because I know some of you are thinking, this sounds like wishful thinking, this sounds like magical thinking. How can just talking to myself before bed change anything? And that's a fair question. It's the question of the conscious mind, the skeptical mind, the mind that's been hurt before and doesn't want to be disappointed again. So let me be clear about what this is, and what this isn't. This isn't about manifesting money out of thin air. This isn't about thinking positive thoughts and expecting the universe to hand you everything you want on a silver platter. This isn't about denying reality or pretending your problems don't exist. This is about understanding how your mind actually works. This is about recognizing that you have two minds, not one. A conscious mind that thinks, and a subconscious mind that creates. And when you learn to communicate with your subconscious mind at the exact moment when it's most receptive right before sleep, you tap into a power that's been with you your entire life, just waiting to be used. You see, your subconscious mind doesn't sleep, ever. While your conscious mind shuts down for the night, while your body rests and repairs, your subconscious mind is working. It's always working. It's processing the day. It's organizing memories. It's looking for patterns. It's solving problems. It's trying to make sense of everything you've experienced. And here's the key: it's working from the last clear instruction you gave it. If you fell asleep worried, it spends the night building more worry. If you fell asleep angry, it spends the night reinforcing that anger. If you fell asleep feeling defeated, it spends the night creating more evidence of your defeat. But if you fall asleep with a clear, emotionally felt intention, if you speak to your sleep with purpose and feeling, your subconscious takes that as its marching orders. It says, "Ah, this is what we're working on tonight. This is the blueprint. This is the seed." And while you rest, while you dream, while you're completely unaware, it goes to work. It connects dots you couldn't see during the day. It accesses wisdom you didn't know you had. It finds solutions that your conscious mind, with all its worry and doubt, would have dismissed as impossible. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is mechanism. This is how you're designed. And once you understand it, once you truly grasp it, you'll never look at sleep the same way again. Let me tell you about a man I once knew. I'm going to call him David, though that wasn't his real name. David came to me 3 years into the worst insomnia of his life. He was a successful man, by most measures. Good job, good family, but he couldn't sleep. Every night, he'd lie in bed, eyes closed, body exhausted, mind racing. And it wasn't just random thoughts. It was a courtroom. Every mistake he'd ever made would come to testify. Every opportunity he'd missed. Every person he'd hurt. Every fear about the future. They all lined up one after another and made their case against him. He tried everything. Sleeping pills made him groggy but didn't actually give him rest. Meditation apps calmed him for a few minutes. But the moment he tried to sleep, the thoughts came roaring back. He tried sleep restriction therapy, where you limit your time in bed to build up sleep pressure. That just made him more anxious. He tried cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, where you challenge your negative thoughts about sleep. That helped a little, but the fundamental problem remained. His mind wouldn't shut off. One evening we sat together, and I asked him a simple question. "David," I said, "what's the last thing you say to yourself before you try to fall asleep?" He looked at me confused. "I don't say anything," he said. "I just try to stop thinking." And that was the problem. He wasn't giving his subconscious any instruction at all. He was just fighting, resisting, pushing against his own mind. And the more he fought, the louder his thoughts became. So I taught him something that changed everything. I told him, "Tonight when you get into bed, I want you to stop fighting, stop trying to force sleep. Instead, I want you to speak to your sleep. Not out loud if you don't want to, but clearly, intentionally. I want you to say something like this: I don't know how to fix this, but I'm going to trust that while I sleep, something deeper than me does. I release this day. I release this worry. I ask my subconscious to show me peace." He looked at me skeptically. "That's it?" he said. "That's going to cure my insomnia?" I smiled. "I'm not promising it will cure anything," I said. "I'm just asking you to try it. Give your subconscious something to work with. Give it an instruction instead of a battle." That night, David tried it. He got into bed, and instead of clenching his jaw and commanding himself to sleep, he spoke to his sleep. He said those words. Not perfectly, not with complete belief, but he said them, and something strange happened. His body relaxed, just a little. The thoughts didn't stop completely, But they slowed down. They became less sharp, less accusatory. And after what felt like hours, but might have been minutes, he drifted off. He didn't sleep perfectly that first night. He woke up a few times, but here's what was different. When he woke up in the morning, he had this strange clarity. Not because his problems were solved, not because anything external had changed, but because he'd stopped trying to solve them with the same mind that created them. He'd delegated the work to a deeper intelligence. And that deeper intelligence, that subconscious mind, had spent the night quietly organizing things, shifting things, making space. Within 2 weeks, his insomnia was gone. Not managed. Not reduced. Gone. And it wasn't because he'd learned some complicated technique. It was because he'd learned to speak to his sleep, to give his subconscious clear, humble, emotionally honest instructions, to stop fighting and start collaborating. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's nice for David, but what about me? What about my specific problem? And that's exactly what I want to address. Because this isn't just about sleep. This is about everything. Every area of your life where you feel stuck. Every problem that feels unsolvable. Every wound that won't heal. The principle is the same. Your conscious mind can't fix it. Not by trying harder. Not by thinking more. Not by forcing. But your subconscious mind can, if you learn to speak to it, if you learn to give it the right instructions, if you learn to plant the right seeds. Let me give you another way to understand this. Imagine you plant a garden. You till the soil. You plant the seeds. You water them. You give them sunlight. And then what do? You leave them alone. You don't dig them up every hour to check if they're growing. You don't stand over them, worried and anxious, demanding that they sprout faster. You trust the process. You trust that in the darkness of the soil, beneath your awareness, life is organizing itself. Roots are spreading, stems are forming, growth is happening, and one day you wake up and there's a sprout, and then a plant, and then a flower. Your subconscious mind is that soil. Every thought, every intention, every emotionally charged idea you plant before sleep is a seed. And while you're unconscious, while you're dreaming, while you're completely unaware, it grows. Roots spread. Patterns form. Solutions emerge. But here's what most people do. They plant seeds of fear, seeds of doubt, seeds of resentment, seeds of worry. They spend those last precious minutes before sleep replaying everything that went wrong, rehearsing everything that could go wrong. And then they wake up surprised that their garden is full of weeds. The mystics understood this. The ancient teachers, the healers. They knew that the last thought before sleep wasn't just a thought. It was the thought, the instruction, the seed. And they treated bedtime like a sacred ritual. Not in a religious sense necessarily, but in the sense that they understood its power. They understood that those few minutes before sleep were the most important minutes of the day, more important than the morning, more important than the busy afternoon, because those few minutes determined what their subconscious would work on all night long. And here's the beautiful paradox. You don't need to control the growing. You don't need to monitor it. You don't need to do anything. You just need to plant the right seed, water it with feeling, and trust the darkness to do what darkness does best. Create, heal, build, transform. So what happens when you've been planting the wrong seeds your whole life? What happens when your subconscious has been working from a blueprint of fear instead of faith? Can you change it? And if so, how quickly? The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. But it requires understanding something fundamental about how your subconscious mind works. Your conscious mind is a debater. It's a critic. It's a skeptic. It doubts. It second guesses. It says, yeah, but what if this doesn't work? What if I'm just fooling myself? What if I'm not strong enough, smart enough, worthy enough? Your conscious mind is the gatekeeper. And it's exhausting. It's that voice in your head that never shuts up, that never gives you a break. That's always questioning, always analyzing, always pointing out what could go wrong. But your subconscious mind? Your subconscious mind doesn't argue, it doesn't debate, it doesn't judge, it simply accepts whatever you give it as true and then gets to work making it real. Your subconscious mind is a servant. It's loyal, it's tireless, it's infinitely creative. But it doesn't filter. It doesn't question. It just says, okay, this is what we believe now. This is the blueprint. Let me build according to this design. This is why affirmations often fail. People stand in front of mirrors and say, I am wealthy. I am confident. I am loved. And they wonder why nothing changes. And here's why. Because while they're saying those words with their mouth, their conscious mind is screaming, no, you're not. You're broke. You're insecure. Nobody loves you. And the subconscious doesn't hear the words. It hears the feeling. It hears the doubt. It hears the contradiction. And it says, okay, so we're building more lack, more insecurity, more loneliness. Got it. But at night, right before sleep, that's when everything changes. Because your conscious mind, that gatekeeper, that critic, is tired. It's shutting down. It's going offline. And in that brief, precious window, those few minutes between waking and sleeping, your subconscious is wide open, unguarded, receptive, ready. This is the secret that changes everything. The last emotion you feel before sleep is the first instruction your subconscious receives for the night. If you fall asleep anxious, you're instructing your subconscious to spend 8 hours building more anxiety, finding more evidence for why you should be worried, creating more scenarios where things go wrong. If you fall asleep grateful, even if it's just for one small thing, you're instructing your subconscious to spend 8 hours building more reasons to be grateful, looking for evidence of what's working, creating more pathways to peace. It's not magic, it's mechanism. It's the way you're wired. It's the way your mind works. And once you understand it, once you really grasp it, you realize that those few minutes before sleep are the most powerful minutes of your entire day. Now, I want to be very clear about something, because I know some of you are thinking, okay, but I have real problems. I have debt. I have a health crisis. I have a relationship that's falling apart. Are you telling me that just thinking nice thoughts before bed is going to fix all that? And the answer is no. I'm not telling you that. What I'm telling you is this. Your conscious mind, the mind you use all day long, is not equipped to solve these problems. It can manage them. It can cope with them. It can create strategies and to-do lists and action plans, but it can't actually transform them. Only your subconscious can do that. Because your subconscious has access to wisdom, to creativity, to insight that your conscious mind doesn't. Your subconscious sees patterns you can't see. It makes connections you can't make. It knows things you don't know you know. And when you speak to your sleep, when you give your subconscious a clear, emotionally felt instruction, you're not denying your problems. You're not pretending they don't exist. You're enlisting help. You're saying, conscious mind, you've done your best, you've tried, you've worked hard. Now step aside and let a deeper intelligence take over. Let me tell you what I mean by emotionally felt instruction. Because this is where most people get tripped up. They think that speaking to their sleep means saying words. Just words. Like a script. Like a formula. And words matter, yes. But what matters more is the feeling behind the words. Your subconscious doesn't speak English. It doesn't speak any language, actually. It speaks in images, in sensations, in emotions. So when you say something before sleep, the words are just the vehicle. The feeling is the message. This is why you can say, I will be confident tomorrow, and nothing changes. Because there's no feeling attached to it. It's just a wish, a hope, a hollow statement. But when you say, I feel safe in my own skin, and you pause just for a moment and you let yourself imagine what that would actually feel like, even if it's just a whisper, even if you can barely touch it, your subconscious registers it. It says, ah, this is the blueprint. This is what we're building, I understand now. And here's the paradox that stops most people. They want to change their life. But they can't force change. They want healing, but they can't demand it. They want clarity, but they can't chase it. Because all of those approaches, forcing, demanding, chasing, come from the conscious mind. The mind that doubts, the mind that's afraid, the mind that doesn't trust. Change happens in the surrender. Healing happens in the release. Clarity happens when you stop trying so hard to find it. And this is what speaking to your sleep is really about. It's not about control. It's about collaboration. It's about saying, I don't have all the answers right now. I don't know how to fix this. But I trust that while I sleep, something deeper than me does. I trust that my subconscious has wisdom I don't have access to during the day. I trust the process. I trust the darkness. I trust the growth that happens when I'm not watching. Some people try this once and expect a miracle by morning. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you wake up with a dream that gives you the exact answer you needed. Sometimes you wake up with a sudden insight, a clarity you couldn't find during the day. Sometimes you just wake up feeling different, lighter, more peaceful, more hopeful, and you don't even know why. But more often, it's cumulative. It's a soft, steady rewiring. Night after night, you're laying down a new track. You're planting new seeds. You're giving your subconscious a new set of instructions. And one day, maybe a week from now, maybe a month, you wake up and realize something has shifted. The thing that used to terrify you doesn't anymore. The problem that felt impossible now has an obvious solution. The wound that wouldn't heal is closed. And you didn't even notice it happening. Because it happened in the dark. While you slept. While you trusted. This is why patience is so important. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. You don't need to do this perfectly. You don't need to get the words exactly right. You don't need to feel it so strongly that you cry every night. You just need to do it. Every night, even when you don't feel like it, even when you doubt it, even when your conscious mind says, this is stupid, this isn't working. You do it anyway, because you're not doing it for your conscious mind, you're doing it for your subconscious. And your subconscious is patient, it's loyal, it never gives up on you. Now let me tell you what sleep actually is. Because we've been taught to think about it all wrong. We've been taught that sleep is rest, that it's a shutdown, that it's the absence of activity, that it's just your body and brain recovering from the day so you can wake up and do it all again tomorrow. And all of that is true. But it's incomplete. Because sleep isn't just a biological function. Sleep is a creative incubation chamber. It's a problem-solving laboratory. It's a healing sanctuary. It's where your subconscious does its deepest, most important work. Thomas Edison knew this. He would take naps, holding a metal ball in his hand. When he drifted off, the ball would drop, wake him up, and he'd write down whatever ideas had come to him in that twilight space between waking and sleeping. Salvador Dali did something similar. He called it slumber with a key. He'd sit in a chair, holding a key over a metal plate, drift into that hypnagogic state, and when the key dropped and made a noise, he'd wake up and capture whatever surreal images had emerged. Einstein credited some of his greatest insights to this liminal space, the space between waking and dreaming, the space where logic loosens its grip, and something deeper, something more creative, something more true can emerge. But you don't need to be a genius to access this. You don't need to be an artist or a scientist or a philosopher. You just need to understand that it exists, and you need to know how to use it. Because every single night, you pass through this space. Twice, actually. Once when you're falling asleep. Once when you're waking up, and most people rush through it. They're not paying attention. They're scrolling their phones, or thinking about their to-do list, or still ruminating on the argument they had earlier. They're not present. They're not intentional. They're not speaking to their sleep. And here's what they miss. In that space, in that threshold, your subconscious is most accessible. Your defenses are down. Your doubts are quiet. Your fears are soft. And if you speak to your sleep in that moment, if you give it a clear, emotionally felt instruction, it sinks in, it lands, it takes root. Not because you're doing something magical, but because you're working with your natural design, instead of against it. Let me tell you what happens during sleep that you're not aware of. While you're unconscious, your brain is doing something extraordinary. It's taking all the experiences of the day, everything you saw, heard, felt, thought, and it's deciding what to keep and what to release. It's strengthening certain neural pathways and weakening others. It's moving short-term memories into long-term storage. It's processing emotions, looking for patterns, making sense of things that didn't make sense during the day. Your nervous system is recalibrating. If you spent the day in fight or flight, in stress and tension, your nervous system uses sleep to return to baseline, to regulate, to restore. Your body is repairing itself. Cells are regenerating. Tissues are healing. Your immune system is strengthening. Hormones are balancing. This is all happening automatically, without your conscious awareness, without your permission. But here's what most people don't realize. This process can be guided, not controlled, not forced, but gently, lovingly guided by the last clear intention you set before surrendering to sleep. Because your subconscious isn't just randomly processing the day. It's looking for meaning. It's looking for direction. It's asking, what's important? What should I focus on? What should I build? What should I heal? And if you don't give it an answer, it makes assumptions based on your habitual patterns, based on your fears, based on your worries, based on whatever was loudest during the day. But if you do give it an answer, if you speak to your sleep with clarity and feeling, your subconscious says, okay, this is the priority. This is what we're working on tonight. This is the seed we're growing. And while you rest, while you dream, while you're completely unaware, it goes to work. It looks for solutions. It makes connections. It accesses wisdom that your conscious mind, with all its noise and doubt, would have dismissed as impossible. This is not wishful thinking. This is not New Age fantasy. This is neuroscience. This is psychology. This is the way your mind actually works. And when you learn to work with it instead of against it, everything changes. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you're struggling with a decision. Should you take the new job or stay where you are? Should you end the relationship or try to fix it? Should you move to the new city or stay where it's familiar? During the day, you've thought about it endlessly. You've made pro and con lists. You've talked to friends. You've analyzed every angle. And you're still stuck. Because your conscious mind is split. Part of you wants one thing. Part of you wants another. And the more you think, the more confused you get. But that night, instead of lying in bed rehashing the same arguments, you speak to your sleep. You say something like, I don't know what the right choice is, but I trust that while I sleep, my subconscious will show me. I release this decision. I ask my deeper wisdom to bring me clarity by morning. And then you let it go. You don't monitor it. You don't check to make sure it's working. You just trust and sleep. And here's what might happen. You might wake up with a dream that gives you the answer. Or you might wake up and just know. Not because you thought about it, not because you analyzed it, but because your subconscious, while you slept, sorted through all the information, weighed all the factors, consulted your deepest values, and came to a conclusion, and it presents that conclusion to you as intuition, as knowing, as clarity. Or maybe you don't wake up with the answer immediately, but later that day, you're in the shower, not thinking about anything in particular, and suddenly it's obvious. The decision is clear, not because anything external changed, but because your subconscious did its work overnight. And now, when your conscious mind is relaxed and open, the answer can surface. This is how it works. This is the mystery of night revelation. Your subconscious solves problems while you sleep. But it can only solve the problems you give it permission to solve. It can only work on what you've consciously released to it. And the best time to release something to your subconscious is right before sleep. In that liminal space, in that threshold, when your defenses are down and your deeper wisdom is available. Now, I want to talk about something that many people struggle with. Worry, anxiety, fear, the thoughts that won't shut off. the scenarios that play on repeat, the catastrophic thinking that keeps you awake at 3 in the morning. If you struggle with this, you're not alone. Most people do. And here's why. Your conscious mind thinks that by worrying, by rehearsing every possible disaster, by staying vigilant and alert, it's protecting you. It thinks that if it can anticipate every problem, you'll be safe. But that's not how it works. Worry doesn't protect you. It exhausts you. It depletes you. It creates more of what you're afraid of. And here's the trap. The more you try to stop worrying, the more you worry. Because trying to stop a thought is like trying to stop a wave. It just gives it more energy. So what do? You speak to your sleep. You say something like, I release all worry to my subconscious. I trust that while I sleep, it will show me what I need to know and protect me from what I don't. I am safe. I am held. I am cared for. And you don't say this to convince yourself. You say it to give your subconscious an instruction, a new blueprint, a seed of peace instead of a seed of fear. And at first, it might feel like you're lying, because your conscious mind is still anxious, still scared, still alert. But that's okay. You're not speaking to your conscious mind. You're speaking to your subconscious. And your subconscious doesn't judge. It doesn't question. It just receives. And if you do this consistently, night after night, something begins to shift. The anxiety doesn't disappear overnight, but it softens. It loosens. It becomes less consuming, because you're no longer feeding it. You're no longer giving it your attention right before sleep. You're giving your attention to something else. To peace, to trust, to safety. Let me tell you about the language your subconscious understands, because this is crucial. Your subconscious doesn't respond to shoulds or musts or have-tos. It doesn't respond to force or pressure or willpower. It responds to feeling, to imagery, to sensation. So when you speak to your sleep, you want to use language that evokes feeling, not language that demands change. For example, don't say, I must be more confident. That's pressure. That's force. That's the conscious mind trying to bully the subconscious into submission. Instead, say, I feel safe being myself. Notice the difference. One is a demand. The other is a state of being. One creates tension. The other creates relaxation. And your subconscious responds to relaxation, not tension. Don't say, I have to fix this problem. Say, I trust that while I sleep, a solution will come. Don't say, I need to stop being so anxious. Say, I release this anxiety and ask my subconscious to show me peace. Do you see the pattern? You're not forcing. You're not demanding. You're releasing. You're trusting. You're collaborating. And here's the beautiful thing. When you speak to your sleep this way, when you use language that's soft and feeling-based and trusting, something happens in your body. Your nervous system relaxes. Your breathing deepens. Your muscles soften. And that physiological shift sends a signal to your subconscious. It says, okay, we're safe now. We can let go. We can rest. We can do the deep work. This is why speaking to your sleep isn't just a mental practice. It's a whole body practice. It's not just words in your head. It's a feeling in your chest, in your belly, in your bones. And the more you can embody that feeling, even if it's just for a few seconds, the more powerful the instruction becomes. Let me address something else that comes up for people. Skepticism, doubt, the voice that says, this is too simple. Real change is hard. Real healing takes years. Real transformation requires suffering and struggle. And I understand that voice. I really do. Because we've been taught that anything worthwhile has to be difficult. That we have to earn our healing. That we have to pay for our peace with pain. But what if that's not true? What if the reason change has been so hard up until now isn't because change is inherently hard, but because you've been using the wrong approach? What if you've been trying to force change with your conscious mind when change can only happen through your subconscious? What if you've been pushing when you should have been releasing? Fighting when you should have been surrendering? Controlling when you should have been trusting? I'm not saying that life is easy. I'm not saying that problems disappear if you just think happy thoughts. What I'm saying is this. Your conscious mind has limits. It can only do so much. It can only see so much. It can only solve so much. But your subconscious mind has no limits. It's connected to a deeper intelligence, a creative force, a healing power that knows exactly what you need and exactly how to give it to you. And when you learn to access that power, when you learn to speak to your sleep and give your subconscious clear instructions, change doesn't have to be hard. It can be natural. It can be gentle. It can be inevitable. Let me tell you what happens when you start practicing this consistently. At first, nothing might seem different. You speak to your sleep, you fall asleep, you wake up, and life looks the same. Your problems are still there. Your fears are still there. And you might think, see? I knew it wouldn't work. But don't stop. Because what you don't see is what's happening beneath the surface. Your subconscious is working. It's shifting patterns. It's making connections. It's preparing the ground for change. And one day, you'll notice something. Maybe it's small. Maybe you handle a stressful situation with more calm than usual. Maybe you have a conversation that would normally trigger you, and you find yourself responding with patience instead of defensiveness. Maybe you wake up and realize you haven't thought about that thing that used to obsess you in 3 days. These are the signs. These are the green shoots pushing through the soil. And when you notice them, don't dismiss them. Don't say, "Oh, that's just a coincidence." Acknowledge them. Celebrate them. Because what you acknowledge grows. What you appreciate multiplies. And your subconscious, when it sees that you're noticing the changes, will create more of them. This is the principle of momentum. Small changes lead to bigger changes. One peaceful night leads to a peaceful morning. A peaceful morning leads to a calmer day. A calmer day leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to better outcomes. And suddenly, 6 months from now, you look back and realize your entire life has transformed. Not because of one dramatic moment, not because of some breakthrough, but because you consistently, night after night, spoke to your sleep, gave your subconscious clear instructions, planted seeds of what you wanted to grow, instead of what you wanted to avoid. Now let me share with you the exact practice, the ritual, the simple steps you can take tonight to begin speaking to your sleep, because I know some of you are thinking, okay, I understand the concept, but what do I actually do? And I want to make this as simple and clear as possible, because it is simple. The power is in the simplicity. First, create a threshold ritual. This is about marking the transition from day to night, from waking consciousness to sleep consciousness. Most people don't do this. They're watching TV, or scrolling their phone, or working right up until the moment they collapse into bed, and then they wonder why they can't fall asleep, or why their sleep is restless. You need to signal to your nervous system that the day is ending, that it's safe to let go, that it's time to shift. So here's what you do. About 10 minutes before you actually want to fall asleep, turn off your phone. Put it in another room if you can. If you can't, at least put it face down and out of arm's reach. Turn off the TV. Dim the lights. You're creating a container, a sacred space, not in a religious sense, but in the sense that this time is different. This time matters. This time is for you and your subconscious to connect. Sit on the edge of your bed, not lying down yet. Sitting, feet on the floor, hands on your knees or in your lap, and take 3 deep breaths. Not complicated breathing, just deep, slow breaths. In through your nose, out through your mouth. With each exhale, imagine you're releasing the day, all the tension, all the stress, all the things you're carrying. You don't have to force it, just imagine it leaving with each breath. And then, out loud or silently, say something like this: I am closing the door on this day. I release what I cannot control. I prepare to speak to my sleep. You can use those exact words, or you can use your own. The words don't have to be perfect. They just have to be intentional. This is you telling your nervous system, we're done with the day, we're transitioning, we're entering a different space now. Then lie down. Get comfortable. Close your eyes. And this is where you speak to your sleep. This is where you give your subconscious its instruction for the night. And here's what's important. Keep it simple. Keep it clear. Keep it emotionally honest. Don't try to say something you don't believe. Don't try to force positivity if you're feeling negative. Your subconscious knows the truth. It can feel the truth. So speak the truth. If you're struggling with a specific problem, say something like, "Tonight, while I sleep, I ask my subconscious to show me the answer to this problem. I trust it will come." If you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed, say something like, "I release all worry. I ask my deeper mind to restore my peace and show me clarity by morning." If you're dealing with a relationship issue, say something like, "I ask my subconscious to show me what I need to see about this relationship. I trust the truth will emerge." Do you see the pattern? You're not commanding. You're asking. You're not demanding. You're trusting. You're not forcing. You're releasing. This is the language your subconscious responds to. Humble, open, trusting, and then, and this is crucial after you speak, pause. Breathe. And feel. This is where most people skip ahead. They say the words, and then immediately try to fall asleep. But the words are just the vehicle. The feeling is the fuel. So after you speak, take a moment to imagine what it would feel like if the answer came. If the peace arrived. If the healing happened. You don't need to see it clearly. You don't need to visualize it in detail. You just need to touch the edge of that feeling. Even if it's faint. Even if it's just a whisper. That's the seed. That's the instruction your subconscious is waiting for. Maybe you feel it in your chest. A softening. A warmth. Maybe you feel it in your shoulders. A release. A letting go. Maybe you feel it in your belly. A settling. A sense of okayness. It doesn't matter where you feel it or how strong it is. Just feel it for a few seconds. That's all. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Just enough to anchor it. To plant it. And then, and this is the hardest part for most people, let it go. Surrender. Don't monitor it. Don't check to see if it's working. Don't lie there wondering, am I doing this right? Is my subconscious listening? What if nothing changes? Because all of that is your conscious mind trying to maintain control, and the conscious mind can't do this work. Only the subconscious can. So you have to trust. You have to release. You have to let go and sleep. Trust that your subconscious heard you. Trust that it's already working. Trust that by morning something will have shifted, even if you can't see it yet. And then sleep. Just sleep. Let your body rest. Let your mind drift. Let the darkness do its work. When you wake up in the morning, don't interrogate yourself. Don't demand results. Don't lie there thinking, okay, where's my answer? Where's my healing? Where's my clarity? Because sometimes the answer is immediate. Sometimes you wake up and you just know. But more often, it's subtle. It's gradual. It's a soft unfolding. Maybe you don't notice anything different right away. But then you're in the shower, not thinking about anything in particular, and suddenly an insight comes. Or you're driving to work and a solution presents itself. Or you're having a conversation and you respond in a way that surprises you. A way that's more calm, more wise, more aligned than you usually are. These are the signs. These are the results. And when they come, acknowledge them. Say thank you. Not to some external force, but to your own subconscious. To that deeper part of you that worked all night while you slept. Because what you acknowledge grows. What you appreciate multiplies. And then, that night, do it again. Speak to your sleep again. Give your subconscious another instruction. Or the same instruction if you're still working on the same thing. It doesn't matter. What matters is consistency. What matters is showing up. Night after night. Even when you don't see immediate results. Even when you doubt. Even when your conscious mind says, "This is pointless," you do it anyway. Because you're not doing it for your conscious mind, you're doing it for your subconscious. And your subconscious never gives up on you. Now, let me address some common obstacles that people encounter. The first one is this: I can't feel anything. I say the words, but I don't feel any different. I try to imagine peace, or clarity, or whatever, but I just feel nothing. And if that's you, that's okay. You're not broken. You're not doing it wrong. You've just been disconnected from your feelings for a long time. Maybe because it wasn't safe to feel. Maybe because you were taught that feelings are weak, or inconvenient, or too much. Maybe because you've spent years intellectualizing everything, living in your head, analyzing instead of experiencing. So start small. Don't try to generate some big emotional experience. Just notice what's there. When you say, "I release this worry," where do you feel that in your body? Even if it's just the tiniest sensation, a slight relaxation in your jaw, a small shift in your breathing, that's enough. That's the beginning. And the more you practice, the more you'll be able to feel, the more connected you'll become, the more your subconscious will respond. The second obstacle is this: I fall asleep too fast. I start speaking to my sleep, and then I'm out. I don't even finish the instruction. And again, that's okay. Your subconscious still heard you. You don't need to complete some perfect ritual. You don't need to stay awake long enough to feel everything fully. Even if you drift off mid-sentence, your subconscious received the message. It knows what you were asking for, and it will work with that. In fact, falling asleep quickly can be a sign that you're relaxing, that you're releasing, that you're not fighting anymore. So don't worry about doing it perfectly. Just do it. Start the instruction. Plant the seed. And if you fall asleep before you finish, that's fine. Your subconscious is already on it. The third obstacle is this: I wake up in the middle of the night and my mind starts racing. I have all these thoughts and worries, and I can't get back to sleep. This is common. And here's what you do. You speak to your sleep again. Right there in the middle of the night. You don't get frustrated. You don't fight the thoughts. You just calmly say, "I release these thoughts. I ask my subconscious to let me rest. I trust that everything will be clearer in the morning." And then you breathe. And you let go. And you trust that your subconscious will guide you back to sleep. Because here's the thing: waking up in the middle of the night isn't always a problem. Sometimes it's your subconscious trying to give you something, a dream, an insight, a message. So, instead of resisting it, be curious. Ask, "Is there something I need to know right now?" And if the answer comes, receive it. If it doesn't, let it go and go back to sleep.